Well, good afternoon. This is TR, and I have a special guest with me. But this is the podcast, Masculinity, Blessing or Curse. It's a podcast that I started a couple of months ago with the idea in mind of one, sharing information from the what I call my Moses generation to a Joshua generation, so that gosh, even though in the Bible Moses never got to the promised land, but he was very effective at passing on information to the next generation in the face of Joshua, because Joshua would go into the promised land. Today, though, is a very special guest, family member, if you will, of mine. And let me just give you a little bit of background of where we'll be going today. Curtis Wilburn is is my godson, and his resume of life is one that's a challenging one that I think, as he shares, might be very beneficial to other men. His father was a college roommate. We pledged together, same fraternity. We subsequently became godfather to each other's children because we had children about the same age. But Curtis, his father, took his own life by suicide. And that was when Curtis Jr., who is our guest today, was very young. Subsequent to that, he lost his mother. Wow. In an attack by his younger brother who took her life. And Curtis will correct me if anything that I'm messing up. Later in life, he lost his wife to a suicide. And with all that being said, he is now, 1 year from now, will be retiring from the Marines. Thank you very much for your service. All of that is what we will try to unravel in the time that we have today. I appreciate you tuning in or staying with us in things that we will share. So let's give our guest, Curtis Wilburn, a very, very loud round of applause. Wow, that was a lot to say for me, even though we will go to that. Anything you want to say in terms of opening remarks?
Well, thanks for having me. It's amazing to see that you're doing a show like this, and thank you for being one of the grateful people of this country that do appreciate the military and all that it does. I've been privileged because pretty much since the time that I've been serving, people have had a more positive attitude than some of our brethren that served earlier. So it's still always great to see support like that.
Awesome. 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 Well, let's get into this because I don't want to take a lot of time from you, but I do want to share with you. First question, before we really talk about all of those episodes that I just mentioned that you survived, um, tell me, who are you? I mean, without the resume, without all of those other things, as a man, who are you right now? If you can help us with that.
Oh, wow. So we're starting with that question that you threw out to me back when I was like 18, I think it was the first time. You're like, well, you're going to have to figure that out. And, you know, these days, I'm just a guy who, honestly, I like spending time with my friends, my family. As you know, my family recently expanded. I have a daughter now, and she's 1 year old as of Wednesday, I think it was. Yeah, Wednesday on the 21st.
Happy birthday, Emma.
And you know, I've, I've, I don't think there's anything too special about me. I, I think I am lucky because I had mentors like you in my life, other masculine men, men that were trying to do the right thing. So I think that's all I am, is just a guy that typically tries to do the right thing. It's not always easy. I don't always do the right thing, but you at least got to try.
Wow.
I mean, yes, I have served in the military. I grew up playing sports. That helped shape my confidence and whatnot. But yeah, that's, that's the kind of man that I think that I am.
Wow. Now, I wrote down some questions just so that I wouldn't get too talkative and get around, but certainly we want to play this by ear wherever you choose to go. Now, you experienced, and I mentioned some of them, some very profound losses at very young ages, ages when most boys would just be starting video games. And you were involved in the loss of your dad by way of suicide. How, if at all, did those early experiences in your life shape your understanding of manhood, and how did you handle or grip those at that such young age? And tell us how old you were when that happened.
So my father passed when I was five-ish, 5 or 6, because I was in kindergarten, but my birthday was is after the cutoff, so I believe I was 6 that year. And you know, let me tell you what I can remember. I My mom woke me up that night uh, to tell me, and I was extremely tired as a 6-year-old boy in the middle of the night, and she told me that he was gone, but I had no concept, no understanding of what I was being told. So then I went back to sleep. Then really the next thing I can remember is the funeral, and I remember you getting up at the church or funeral home and giving the eulogy. Um, and then I can remember going to the cemetery, and but I didn't want to get out the vehicle and go see my father be put into the ground. I mean, because I'm a young boy, people are telling me my father's not coming back. So, and I just stayed. I remember staying in the vehicle. So that was a little tough for me at the time, I'm sure. Um, and then, you know, family members, neighbors, because one of the neighbors was a paramedic and he had tried to help him, but unfortunately, you know, things were too late at that point. They all gave condolences and whatnot, and then going back to school, and then don't know why, but I stood up in front of the class and said, my dad died over the Christmas break. Those are the things that I can still remember to this day. Not in the greatest of details, but I can still remember. So, you know, but it 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 was difficult, right? I experienced that grief, that sadness, and then going back to school, I had to still move forward. I was still playing sports, or no, that's when mom started putting us into sports as early as we could understand them. And I remember having difficulty with thinking that everybody is supposed to like me when other kids didn't like me. And it was difficult trying to understand that, and I didn't have someone to explain to me until a few years later when I spoke to you about it. And that's when you had given me the best piece of advice that I've ever received in dealing with other people. But just because you gave it to me then doesn't mean I understood and tried to apply it. unfortunately for me. But you said it's okay if they don't like you, as long as they respect you. And that is something that has stuck with me still to this day. And it's difficult for me to always apply it, because you weren't there every day to help reinforce it and guide me, but you did. You and lots of the other mentor men that came into my life and helped me get to where I am, they all, to some effect, gave me that same advice. That it's okay if they don't like you, as long as they respect you enough to, and where that line of respect is, you have to establish that for yourself as well.
Wow. Wow. Devastating. The courage at 5 years old, 6 years old, to be able to stand in front of your class and say that my father passed away. That alone, at 5 years old, to be able to stand in front of a class. There are people that, in an adult age, say that they would rather die than stand in front of an audience. And you did that at 5. Were you prompted to do that, or did you volunteer for that, or what was?
So, like, it was show and tell Friday.
Mm.
I didn't have anything to show, so I just went up and told them. Uh, I, again, I was so young, I didn't fully understand what I was
Wow.
saying. The teacher did. I remember her response, and the way she tried to address it with the rest of the class. But yeah, I wouldn't have said it was like courage or bravery. I would just say it completely 6-year-old not understanding the words that he's
Wow.
using. Like,
Wow.
sure, I understood that my father wasn't there, but I didn't quite understand what all. I didn't understand the gravity of the words I was saying.
Wow. You hear the term a lot: be strong, suck it up, man up. People say that a lot, particularly to boys, young boys, grown men even. Has that term ever come up? Has it ever shaped you? What is the impact, if you've heard it, I assume you have, of that term in your life? Suck it up,
Well,
man up, be strong.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's changed. I've heard it throughout my entire life, yes. And my understanding of it has changed to where I think I've got a pretty good grasp on it now, as what people are meaning to say, but they're using the worst words to do it. Because if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be competent, if you're going to be the one who takes charge, people don't want to see you be weak. Everybody wants to somebody who's in that leadership role or heroic role. They don't ever want to see them be weak, see them fail. But that doesn't mean that you don't get to have your vulnerabilities. What do I mean by that? There's a handful of people that I can share my true feelings about things on. When I'm upset, when I'm sad, when I'm just going through it, or I just need someone to bounce something off of because I think I might be wrong, but maybe somebody can give me their opinion. I only have a handful of people that I would trust with that. But the rest of the world, they only need to see what I can do. They only need to. They only need to see me trying to do more. They don't need to know all the ins and outs. Now, does that mean that when there's something serious that I won't go get therapy? No, I've been to therapy a couple of times for various different reasons. But I also understand that therapy is a tool for a specific use, and that's the way I approach it. I'm not going to them for every little thing, because if you're going to be resilient, that means that you have to be able to learn from your experiences, your mistakes, and move forward in the best way that you think is possible. So, being strong, to me, doesn't mean that I always have the right answer, but I still try to do it because I like self-reliance. I like resiliency in my life.
Now you mentioned this, and I'll just say band of brothers. These people that you share if it hurts or when it hurts. How did that core develop? Where did they come from? How did you arrive? This guy, this person, what have you? How did that? How was that born?
Well, there's been different men that I would call brothers throughout my life. Starting in grade school, I met Michael. Met Michael Meacham. He's my brother in soccer. Growing up, we were best friends. His family was right around the corner in the same neighborhood, so we grew up doing everything together. And still to this day, our family, his mom and dad are just like my second mom and dad. They've been nothing but great. His sister's my sister. I still love him. He is my brother. But we kind of had distance growing as we got to college age. I went to college out of town. He ended up getting a job in another state. And we still talk on occasion, but it's not that close relationship that it was. But every time I see him, it's like no time has passed, and we're right back in those good old days, so to speak. But I can go to him with any problem that I've got, and he'll either just listen, or if I'm looking for opinions or advice, he'll be there for me. And then another soccer guy that I grew up with, Earl, he joined the Navy, but we spent a lot of time in our college years together. And his family and I are still close. Again, we don't talk as much, but when we do see each other, when we do speak, it's almost as if no time has passed. I trust him with my life as well. And then the last one I met was Mike, and he's a Marine. And there's no brotherhood. I mean, we're the largest fraternity in the world. We're all proud of that. And but he is my true brother. There's nothing that he won't do for me, and there's nothing that I wouldn't do for him. We help keep each other balanced. Whether or not we listen to each other's advice, well, sometimes we can be stubborn. That's okay, though. But we're still there for each other at any time. So, yeah, I think I'm very fortunate in that I have had and still have these men in my life who can be real support whenever I need. And I can be that for them as well. But it's never instantaneous. I mean, I had to prove myself to them and they had to prove themselves to me. But it's not like we gave each other tests. It was just, you know, I can trust you, and then something came up, something not necessarily tragic, but something came up in our relationship, and we demonstrated loyalty and care and compassion for each other.
Strong. Yeah, usually, I like the idea that you said the Marines is the largest fraternity around, because usually brotherhoods happen because there's been some sacrifice, some hurt, some shared pain that allows you to see. I know how much pain you can endure, what you might do for me in that situation. I pledged fraternity myself. Your father and I were both Kappas, and we were pledging together. So you go through things that you know that you learn that this guy is going to be there for this, and that helps you to create that bond. Certainly, I can see that. See that. Uh, there's a Scott Galloway is a person that is very popular, very well known, has his own podcast that speaks specifically on men issues. One of the statistics that he pours out is if you look at a young man that has lost a father, no male figure in his life, particularly as he's growing up, there's a higher likelihood that he would go to prison than graduate from college. You mentioned a moment ago that there were other men that kind of filled that void uh, during those years. What was the impact of them? You mentioned that I was one of them, but there were other men, and that. What was the impact of those men? How did they come about? How did you gain that relationship? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, well, as you've already explained your relationship with my father, and then you went out of your way to spend a little extra time with me and my brother. You took us to the circus. You took us to baseball games. I think I learned how to ride roller coasters because of you. For those who don't know, he's a big roller coaster fan. I don't know why, but if you're ever scared of riding a roller coaster, he will teach you. Just ask. It's great. Um, and
Love it.
so that was how that came about. But when you moved, when you moved to Florida, we went to visit, and oh,
No.
we would go and visit you in Florida, and you know, there were times where it's, I think I was 12 when you moved there, 11 or 12. There were times we would go visit, and I'm starting to move into those rebellious years.
Now, we were talking about other men that had influence in your life during your growing up years, the years of your middle school, adolescent years, or what have you, and how they might have shaped and molded you, and how they came into your life. Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? How did that period occur?
Um, well, other than yourself, I mean, you were there pretty much from the beginning, um, and and you took that upon yourself to come and take care of these two little boys and give them your love and care, and you always helped establish boundaries, especially there when we started to get into our teenage years and start to become rebellious. At least we thought we were to some degree. Thought I knew things. I didn't, but that's okay. Um, but you helped set boundaries, and then I spoke about my buddy Michael on soccer. His father has been a huge impact for me. He again, took it upon himself to spend time and invest in a little, at the time, 10-year-old boy, all the way up until now. Um, he's the one that taught me how to change oil and to change a tire on my vehicle the first time, and I still know how to do it to this day. Thankfully, um, yeah, you know, there were times again. Uh, Tested boundaries, and he set those limits for me, um, but still allowed me to grow and help mentor me through that. And then one of them was one of the neighbors to a kid who was in my grade, again same neighborhood. Um, he's the one that taught me how to swing a hammer and how to work a drill and a screwdriver. Things that I didn't know when I was uh, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And so it was like that. There were some men in the church as well who always offered advice or help or comfort when it was needed and appropriate. And yeah, you know, uh, just because someone wasn't in my life for a long time doesn't mean that they didn't help imprint some of those good things. Now, that's not to say that I didn't have bad experiences with some men. Um, I can remember one man in particular who turns out he was losing his mind, but he made such a bad impression that my brother and I had to go and hide when he came into the house.
Mm.
Uh, and obviously, mom got rid of him after that. Um, but yeah, it, it, I had to choose who to learn from, but I had many more positive men in my life than negative men and negative experiences.
Wow, that's profound. Excuse me. You mentioned men in your church. What, if any, impact did faith, men in your church, or your church relationship have? What impact did that have, if any, during those years?
I would, I mean, I would say that had it. I mean, obviously, I met those men who tried to put positive characteristics into me. Um, so I would say that it was pretty impactful. Um, and when I was younger, I wouldn't say I was big into faith, but it was definitely a large part of my life. Um, I went to church. Um, I even tried to study the 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 Bible at one point. I even tried to write a sermon at one time, and then nothing against the faith, Christianity, or the Bible. I just have a problem studying something that is that thick, but I didn't figure that out until I was well into my adult years. Um, Turns out I have a little bit of ADHD. If we'd known more about it back then, I probably would have been diagnosed back then. But mm, I think it's better to be that I was diagnosed in my adult years. Personal opinion. I'm not a
Mm.
professional when it comes to that, but yeah, no, I would say that faith was played a big part because I mean there were lots of reassurances and then it allowed me to have hope for certain.
Now, this may carve into a real personal thing because I know you have challenges even now with faith issues. What, because young men who are right now, the challenge that we have is a large percentage of the young boys growing up are growing up in fatherless homes. Uh, Whether it's because of divorce, whether it's because of death, or whether it's because of separation, any number of different things. So they're growing up in fatherless homes. And you have been somehow able to deal with not just living conditions, but some very severe tragedies to get through them. If you had something to say to boys who are growing up maybe without a male role model in their life, what what message could you convey? Would you convey to them?
Um, you know, even though there might not be somebody that is what I would consider a positive male role model, doesn't on a screen on TV doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of examples to learn from in literature. Whether you're reading the Bible or if you're reading some books, some fantasy series, or what have you, there's lots of examples of good men that you may not get to interact with, but you should. There are still good traits that you can find just about anywhere as long as you're looking that will benefit you and help you progress through life in a positive manner. Um, you know, I, I, I read some fantasy books growing up, you know, so
Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite?
I mean, I was a little bit older when I started the series, but I read the whole Harry Potter series. It was fascinating to me, so I enjoyed that. Um, there were plenty of there were a couple of good guys in that one. Back in the day, we had the choose your own adventure style books, where you could say, I want to do this decision in the book, and then you go to a different one. They never had any, like, none of them ever became like hugely popular, at least the ones I read, but there were people in that had qualities. There was a doctor in one of them in particular that I always thought was really fascinating. But now, with everything being on screen, even some of those things that we think are bad, like the movies that we think have bad characteristics all over them, you can still find good in them. And I mean, just like most people on this planet, there's usually something good about them. You might have to look a little harder, but you can usually find something good that you should and that you might want to and probably should emulate. And you know, I don't subscribe to that whole, well, if he did one thing wrong, then everything about him has to be wrong. No, we're all human. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we make mistakes for a long period of time, but that doesn't make them bad, completely
Hmm,
bad.
got it. Got it. So it's, if we don't have a physical person, then literary, literary, we read them. We find them in books, or we find them in video. Are you a gamer now?
Not anymore. I was for like 15 years. Like you said, I grew up with Nintendo, and we had some different systems growing up as things aged and progressed. But I really haven't played like a video game and like really played in about 15 years or so.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
play every now and then some of the older ones, especially now since you can literally play them all on your phone. But
Yeah.
no, I haven't been into gaming for quite some time.
Okay. Okay. How did it happen that you made a decision for the Marines? Is that what is that about?
So way back when I was really stubborn and thought I was the best thing walking, and then
Oh, you thought that?
so in high school I thought I was, uh, yeah, and so it's my junior year of high school, and this kid in one of my classes says he's joining the Marines and he's gonna be big and bad, and can't touch him, and he just had this attitude, and I was like, man, you're not better than me, so this Marines thing can't be too hard. And so I thought I was going to join after high school, and then I my recruiter was trying to do some things that uh, another recruiter was like, you can't do that. He's lying to you, and so I stopped trusting that recruiter. And then, uh, so I went to college after high school, and then I tried to go to college. Let's put it that way. And then I met another guy, and he was actually talking about the Marines, and I was like, oh yeah, I had thought about doing that. I'll go over there with you, see the recruiter. And so talked to the recruiter. The recruiter was like, hey man, I'll be straightforward with you. Here's this, this, and this. And I was like, okay, that's better than the last guy telling me I can just do whatever I want. Um, to a certain degree, you can do whatever you want, but no. He's like, yeah, that guy lied. This is how it actually works, but this is what I can do for you. And the guy I went with, actually, he couldn't join because his eyesight was so bad, but I was able to join. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm still one of the best. And the Marines call themselves the best. And I was like, yeah, let me go prove it. And so
Uh,
that's what happened. And here I am, almost 24 years later, sitting here being like, oh man, just one more, and I'll be done. So yeah, that's how I made the decision to join the Marine Corps, with
wow.
mom sitting there saying, I don't think it's a good idea, but I'll be proud of you, but I don't think it's a good idea. So that's how that happened.
Wow, that's something. Joining the Marines, let's see, you're the reputation of the Marines is you're the first one out there, you're doing it, you're hitting it. You are the things that you learn in training and so forth. Did those things help you? Certainly physically, I'm sure, but emotionally, were the things that you gained in the Marines, were they helping you to be equipped emotionally?
Um, so the Marines, especially when I joined, they had this slogan going: "Pain is weakness leaving the body." And
Mm.
so the real thing about the Marines, becoming a Marine, the thing that they instill, personal opinion, is that you really don't know what you can't do until you actually can't do it. So if and just I'll just use the physical as an example. If you think that you can't climb a rope, they're going to make sure that you can climb that rope. They're going to make sure that you do it until you actually physically can't do it. So if I'm sorry, if there was something, physically wrong with you that prevented you from being able to climb that rope, okay, now we've actually found that limit. And that's how they try to, and from what I've seen, that's how the organization tries to approach everything. Um, like, you can't do it until you actually can't do it.
Mm.
Which is, I think, me having been that person that wanted to have that self reliance, that resiliency. Um, it, they just compounded on top of that. And that's what I think the Marine Corps, military in general, I think that's how they, excuse me, I'm sorry. I think that's how they um, build up, build men and women into being better versions of themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
In that you're going to find out what you can and what you individually can and can't do. Um, Now, emotionally, it's a little bit different. For me, it was a little bit different just uh, as I had the subsequent tragedies with my mom and my wife. Um, it it took a little bit for both of those um, for me to be have that resiliency to get back to what I thought was normal. But yeah, I think it. I think they did compound my ability to be resilient and also self-reliant.
Mm. Well, I agree with the whole idea, and this may be where people get the idea of toxic masculinity or what have you. But there has to be, I think, part and parcel with understanding masculinity is there is potentially a limit in your mind that you have to push toward it, past it, if possible, to know that you can. Your idea of, I'm going to know that I can't before I embrace the fact that I can't. And having a group of people that create this atmosphere of, I'm going to demand of me to be the best me that there could be. One of my video heroes is David Goggins, and gosh, who doesn't know David Goggins? But it is always a push to know what's the limit. How far can I go? Because life is such that you have to be able to answer the question, what am I afraid of? And then how do I overcome that? And you have to be able to push past whatever that fear is, whatever is going, because all of your life, you're going to deal with something that says you can't. And somebody will say it, maybe even there's this imposter syndrome in your own mind that's saying, I can't. And you have to be able to say, I'm going to do it. And not even sometimes I'm going to try to do it. It's, I'm going to do it. And then you push everything inside of you to be able to hit that level of whatever it is. And that's a lot of what masculinity, in my opinion, is. It's just knowing. Somebody said that you said when you joined the Marines, there's this guy in your high school that says, I'm going to do it. I'm tougher than you. Well, let's prove that, buddy. Shoot the gun and start the race. Let's go. And that's where we get the. I remember we got up to the track a number of times. All right, let's go. Listen, how fast can you run this distance? And it's a lot of that, and that competitiveness is a lot of what manhood is, and a lot of, I've got to beat my best, and part of that is you're going to pull out the best in me, and I'm going to pull out the best in you. Yes. Here's a question for you. You've been through a lot, a lot, a lot, and what we're often taught as men is to suck it up. I'll ask you this question: is there any danger or challenge, or what do you see would be a challenge, if any, in being silent?
Um, yeah, I would absolutely say that being silent is dangerous. And I say that from personal experience because uh, when uh, Justin had killed my mom, uh, I bottled it up and just pushed forward and getting through the funeral, although I definitely cried at the funeral. But I just pushed forward, on to the next thing, back to work, trying to handle all the estate stuff, all the just the court stuff, still dealing with my family as normal. It was tough, and I got to a deep and dark place. And I was starting to think, this would be a lot better if I just weren't living, didn't have to deal with this anymore. And so I made the conscious decision to go and get help then, to go find professionals and to help me deal with that in a way that I felt didn't diminish my quote unquote masculinity in any fashion. Nobody else had to see me going, nobody knew when I was going. Um, and that's how I started to address it. Now, I will admit, the first couple of therapists that I went and spoke with and talked to, it ended up not being a good fit. It took me, I think, 4 therapists before I found somebody that I thought was okay. And then, even then, they didn't accept my insurance for that long. So then I still had to go and find another one, which I eventually found. Which today the tools are a little bit easier. Back then, even though it's a decade ago seems like not that long ago, but technologically it is, because now we have all these online therapy platforms that it's easier to hopefully find a match for you, so that for whomever to address what they're dealing with.
Wow. 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 Okay, so you mentioned as you were talking that there was a question, or did you question your masculinity as you're walking these pathways of, do I seek help? Do I take my own life? Is masculinity on the table as a consideration during that period?
Uh, no, it wasn't even close to the forefront of my mind. Um, like, I mean, sure, there was like, am I really man enough because I can't handle all this stuff? Especially, um, not to discredit my mom or anyone in the similar position, but my mom ended up becoming the matriarch of her family after her mother died. And I, as I saw the amount that she was dealing with her family, I sat there and was like, wow, I guess I'm not man enough to be able to handle all this. So I guess you could say it did come up, but when I made that decision to go get the help, I wasn't thinking about how it would affect my masculinity. I did think a little bit about how, um, I know it sounds like double speak. I'm not trying to. Um, yeah, I would say yes, I did question myself because I figured as a man, I should be able to handle anything, when the truth is, I'm just a human, and there are lots of things that I don't know, and there's lots of ways for other people to help me address a situation.
Wow, that is a very profound statement. I think as we mature as human beings, as men, what have you, to reach a point where we understand that I am not the know it all, the all be it. I am not it. There are powers greater than me. In my mind, it is the power of God in you. Oftentimes, reaching the end of yourself is what I call it. The prodigal son story is one where the Bible says he came to himself. I say it's a lot of times when we reach the end of ourself that we recognize that I can't do this alone. I need help. What would you say to someone who may feel like, gosh, every time I try to get up, I get knocked back down? You have endured any one of the things that you went through, suicide, your brother taking the life of your mother, the suicide of your wife, any one of those things is enough by itself. What would you offer or suggest to someone who feels like every time I try to stand up, I get knocked back down? What could you say to that person?
Uh, well, I mean, I'm gonna paraphrase Rocky Balboa. Um, it's really not about how hard you can hit. It's not about how hard of a hit you can take. It's about your resiliency to be able to get back up.
Yeah.
Um, like getting knocked down, you're gonna get knocked down in life. I don't care who you are or what position you're in. At some point, you're gonna get knocked down.
Yeah.
And so then you have to either take that look at yourself or already have that determination on, are you going to stay down or are you going to get back up? Because like the way, I mean, we talk about it all the time in the military. Is even back then when I was at that low point, you know, you really don't want to seek a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Yeah. That's rich. That's rich. And certainly taking your life is a permanent, quote, solution to a problem that's temporary. I often say that in life, we all have four, like the climate, there are 4 seasons, and we experience in our life spring, summer, fall, and winter. What we have to know is that none of them are permanent. Spring is not permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Summer is not permanent. Fall is not permanent, nor the cold and bitterness of winter. It's not permanent. But suicide, permanent. It's totally the end. Um, let's kind of lighten up a little bit. Next year, a year from where we're filming now, January of 2027, you're scheduled to retire from the Marines. What thoughts do you have about what you do after your service to the Marines? And again, thank you very much for your service. But what's after that?
Um, Thank you. I mean, like I said, it's always appreciative of those who appreciate those who have chosen to serve, because we do live in America where no one has to serve unless they want to. We're very privileged in that. Um, After the military, you know, I'll have one retirement at least, right? So if I've got all my ducks in a row and whatnot, I could technically not have to work again, right? But that's not going to happen. But I think I might take some time, a little bit, start enjoying a few things, maybe do some fishing, and then go back to work. My work prospects, I mean, I haven't really dug into them. I could start another career in another part of the government. Um, I probably won't do that. I don't know. Maybe I'll go do find a little service job that sends me out for a little bit every day and do something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'll go
What was
crazy. Maybe I'll try sales like you.
your what was your specialty in the military? What area are you in the military?
So I'm currently in administration. That's not where I started, but that's where I've spent most of my time in the military. So I'll finish out. Have my computer skills, no certifications. That's fault on me. Should have taken advantage of that, getting my certifications in Microsoft and Word, Excel, and PowerPoint and Access. But that's okay. I can still get them. It's just
Yeah,
going to cost me a little bit more.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but also I've the Marine Corps is uh it's a its administration is kind of all jumbled together. So we're included in payroll, we're included in scheduling, we're included in travel, we're included in manpower, uh, and also do a little bit of legal administration. So I've got experience in quite a few different things that I didn't think I would ever have experience in, but it's been fun.
yeah,
But I'm also ready to go.
yeah. Well, what you also have is Emma Rose, which a 1-year-old daughter. Congratulations again. Of
Thank you.
now, man, there's a whole lot on that path that you get
Yeah.
to. You're now a girl dad, and man, that is a whole experience by itself. So awesome for that. Listen, want to thank you
Well, I
again.
mean,
Uh, Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, well, you did it twice before, so
Yeah, man, that girl dad thing is a serious, serious situation. But you'll know as you go through it. And she's a beautiful little girl too. All right, Curtis. Thank you so much for being with me, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of people commenting on this. Thank you again for your service. Thank you for you just being there and being the man that you are, and all of those great things. All right. All right. Thanks so much. God bless. Hey, listen,
thank you.
for the rest of you, please subscribe. Curtis is my godson, so if it's something else you need him to pick up, if there's questions that you'd like to ask him, shoot them in the chat, and we'll pick those up. I also want to invite you to come back next week, and in fact, I'll come back because I want to also give some reference points. All right, thanks, Curtis. All right, talk to you soon.
All right, we'll talk to you.
All righty,
Thanks.
all righty, bye bye. As we close this session with Curtis Wilburn, I wanted to be sure to add a couple of thoughts. I want to thank him for that. And for those that might be going through some challenges, let me just give these public service announcements, if you would. 988 Suicide and the Crisis Life Center can be reached by simply dialing 988 on your phone. If you feel like you are being challenged by life and you may be taking that eighth knockdown punch, we need to get back up nine. And dialing 988 on your phone is a help service for that. There's also the Veterans Crisis Line, which is also 988. and then press 1. That's the veterans line. Give an hour is mental health service and military for military and families. Give an hour. Faith-based support. Oftentimes, and I'll be candid with you, many ministers, though they may have PhDs, etc., may not be equipped to handle some psychiatric work. And Curtis alluded to the fact that there were some times when he had to seek out professional help. It's not a throwback against your masculinity. It is something that if you need it, please, as he mentioned, we want to be careful not to give a permanent answer to a temporary solution or temporary problem. And I'm reading here, one trusted person rule. Curtis alluded to the fact that there are a few people that he can call, he would call. I'm one of those, but there's some other friends that he maybe have gotten in military and growing up, et cetera, et cetera. Have someone that you can call if there is a situation whom you can share very personal concerns with. It is not a a a being vulnerable is not a weakness. It is a pathway to strength. And finally, let's see. Reaching out is not a failure of faith or masculinity. It's an act of wisdom. God bless you. God keep you. Hope to see you again next week.